This program is brought to you by realestate.com.au. Keep moving with Australia's #1 address in property.
Thanks for being with us here on Business Weekend. Well, the government set aside $33 billion over 10 years, mainly through extra funding for the Help to Buy scheme to help home building. But look, home building stats show it's still way behind its target of 1.2 million new homes by the end of the decade. Edward Boyd investigates.
Cost of living is the major issue for voters at this election. And the biggest cost of all is housing. Affordability is at record lows and rents are close to record highs. Labor, the Coalition and the Greens have all proposed various solutions to these problems.
Housing is critical at this election. We're going to be holding all the parties to account on what they're doing around housing policy.
Labor will expand the eligibility requirements for its Help to Buy scheme, allowing people with slightly higher incomes to access the shared equity scheme, where the government becomes a part owner in their property. It's also set aside $33 billion in the recent federal budget for housing.
Thank you. How are you?
Meanwhile, the Coalition want APRA to reduce its home loan serviceability buffer from 3% to increase borrowing power. They will also allow first home buyers to access up to $50,000 of their super to buy a home. The Coalition have also pledged $5 billion to build essential infrastructure at housing development sites.
Look, the reality of a lot of these promises by both Labor and the Coalition is that I don't think they're going to dramatically shift the dial. When we look at things like Help to Buy scheme, there aren't that many places announced. And then if we look at the Coalition's plan to let people access their super, typically people don't necessarily have enough in their super if they're in that first home buyer cohort. So while it's good to see the focus is on housing and helping people get into the housing market, the reality is it's still going to be really tough out there, even with these policies.
Some experts believe APRA's serviceability buffer is preventing Aussies from entering the housing market. CanStar says an Aussie on the average wage of $103,000 a year would be able to borrow an extra $20,000 if the buffer was reduced to 2.5%.
So the current schemes that are in place, like the Help to Buy and the Homeowners Guarantee Scheme, actually are very targeted programs. And I think to support more first home buyers into the market, we need to look at every option that we have. The serviceability buffer has been 3% for quite some time, but it was as low as 2% in 2014. And so I do think that we need to look at whether that buffer is still at the right level, and in order to actually maybe ease pressures and give some more people opportunities to purchase their homes.
Labor also want to provide more financial support directly to apprentices to stimulate the construction sector. Meanwhile, the Coalition will provide support directly to employers who are hiring the apprentices. But a major concern for the housing sector is the proposal by the Greens to phase out negative gearing, a policy that Bill Shorten attempted at the 2019 election, which he lost to Scott Morrison.
We've got concerns with any crossbenchers, whether it's the Greens or I know some of the Teals are also concerned about negative gearing, in making policy demands that are totally contrary to increasing supply of homes. And if we look at negative gearing and capital gains tax changes as being proposed by the Greens, the answer to that is simple. If you make changes to negative gearing and capital gains tax as it currently is, you reduce the supply of homes because you've reduced the number of investors into the rental market. It is actually an own goal to think that those changes are going to improve the rental market. They are not. It's only going to get worse. So we would say if there is a minority government, both major parties will be held to account by master builders if they are doing any deals that is contrary to the national interest.
And Flaherty from REA Group says removing negative gearing would have serious implications for renters.
Ultimately, the biggest losers from this kind of a policy are going to be renters, because what this does is dramatically discourage investment in property. We need a healthy balance between owner-occupiers and investors in the market because, of course, a third of Australians rent. Now, if we take Victoria as an example, there's been so many investors selling off that the actual total number of rental properties has shrunk by over 20,000.